Well, listen, I've said this forever, that time plus experience equals trust. And I know this not from business. I know this from like real life. Like you can get a sense of who somebody is by who they keep around them.
Welcome to The Mindful Agent, where real estate success meets health, mindfulness, and personal growth. Join me, Michael Coxen, top performing agent, growth director, and co-owner of Magenta Real Estate, as I explore the intersection of wellness and business excellence, helping you thrive in both real estate and life. Today, we're diving deep into the art of growth and transformation with Jim Slack, a dynamic business consultant and systems specialist whose expertise has shaped the commercial real estate landscape. With over a decade of experience, Jim's worked on projects all over the city of Las Vegas, driving success through systems optimization, strategic coaching, and most importantly, relationship building. But Jim's impact goes far beyond business. He's a pioneer of personal growth, having transformed his life through an incredible system of annual themes. Jim walks the walk, from a year of strength that not only strengthened his biceps, but unexpectedly strengthened his bond with his son, to a year of mental health, where he explored neurofeedback, the Wim Hof method, and even a little dabble with DMT. Jim's approach to goal setting is both inspiring and actionable, most importantly. His experiments with mindfulness and holistic methods have allowed him to face life's challenges with clarity and resilience, turning failures into stepping stones and obstacles into opportunities. In this episode, we'll uncover how Jim structures his goals, the power of focusing on systems over outcomes, and how his journey has influenced his personal and professional success. Whether you're looking to optimize your performance or explore new ways to approach growth, this conversation will leave you motivated and ready to take action. Let's dive in with Jim. Jim Slack, welcome to The Mindful Agent.
Thanks for having me.
You and I have been friends for I don't know how long.
A little bit.
It started off you trying to sell me stuff.
Yep.
By feeding me sushi and beer at various restaurants around town.
Feels accurate. Yep.
These meetings may have occurred during the day. They may have occurred at night.
Mostly during the day.
But what was all that for?
Well, I'll tell you what, I have a different approach when it comes to building new relationships. And kind of first and foremost, you start with the niceties and trying to get to understand who people really are and to see if it's someone you want to do business with. I think that type of approach has kind of always worked out well. And I get to eat sushi. So kind of a win-win for me. I think that first project we worked on was interesting and obviously piqued my interest and told me a lot about you and your character. And I think a good friendship was formed from that.
Likewise. I mean, we're here today, obviously.
Yeah.
Tell the people what you did then and how we first met.
Yeah. Oh, man. At that time, I was working for a general contracting service here in Las Vegas, doing commercial construction. I'm just trying to help out what looked to be an upcoming project. Wasn't sure where I was going to find myself in that project, whether we were going to estimate or do something for you. But at the end of the day, it was just about building that connection and hopefully earn some trust that if that project would have moved forward, you would have given me the phone call. So nothing more than doing my job at the time.
I will correct you. You actually, this was before you were in construction when we met. You were in the title business, a little company called Fidelity National Title.
You're right.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I remember working there. I certainly remember working there.
Tell me your path into real estate. What was the reason you got into this industry?
Yeah. Funny enough, I was working for a company called Veritiv. Veritiv was a packaging company, third-party logistics. I was traveling the country. I got to work with a lot of the big corporations like Victoria's Secret and L'Oreal, and they would have a fall line or a new product, and we come out and design packaging solutions for them. And when I moved to Las Vegas, I came here doing that, and there was no real estate on the forefront. I did have a colleague that used to be in commercial real estate, is now back in commercial real estate, working over at Marks & Millichap, a talented guy by Mike Labar. He's still a good friend. He said, "Hey, I think your skill set's being wasted here. I think you do go well in commercial real estate." And
what skill set was he referencing?
I think it's just that grind, being able to get up and show up type of mentality, finding solutions. I might have complained at the time that I wanted to make more money. So that certainly was a factor in the decision, but I did spend almost a year working both jobs, got my commercial brokerage license, and started working for Avis & Young. It was go to work during the week, show up there at night, show up there on the weekends, whatever it took. And I fell in love. I really did fall in love with the commercial real estate process. Just, it was like it put different meaning in my life. I was always like the packaging guy. And now I was like, we're changing skylines, where it didn't actually feel like that, because we handled 89101, 89102, which is like that Fremont Street area. So not exactly high-rise hotels, but you could see what the next level was going to look like. And I could start to see other professionals in the industry. So I was always right away, I knew I liked it.
So packaging is something generally that gets thrown away versus real estate, which generally has a long life.
Sure.
Las Vegas, maybe 10 years is a long life, but certain projects.
I found it to be simple. And that was the nice part about working as a broker. The folks I work with said, you got to make 50 calls a day. And at the time, I didn't know any better. So I made 50 calls a day. Didn't always get a hold of people, but I made them every day.
Yeah.
Came up with the system for that. And I sold 6 multifamily buildings in 8 months. I made a good amount of money. And I'm like, well, that's that. I guess we're out. I guess we're not doing packaging anymore. So I did that for a little over a year. I got an offer from First American Title. Shell Seibel ran First American Title. Her husband was Brian Seibel and worked with me at Davis Young. They offered me a good amount of money to make the switch. Looking back, it was definitely the right decision. And so when I took on that title work, what ended up happening was I met all the brokers. I met all the lenders, and I built this like kind of really good network. To the point when I moved over to Fidelity, I got an offer from DC Building Group. Sean Donowski over there took me in, said, "What do you want to learn about commercial development?" It just felt like that next natural stage of my career. I felt it was like the right place, right time, great company culture to jump into. And when I started there, it was, okay, we're going to meet architects. We're going to meet civil engineers, structural engineers. So now I have brokers, lenders, structural architect. I found myself going to these events, and I kind of just knew everybody. And it wasn't just, I know you. It's like I was able to work for companies that allowed me to take the time to build stories and build relationships, to build that time and experience to earn the trust. And so it's I'd walk into an event, and I didn't just say, oh, that's that person. Like, that's that person. That's his wife. Those are his kids. And this is what happened when we went to Scottsdale, right? Mm-hmm. It was those types of relationships that got built that kind of got me on the path that I'm on now, that we still use at Waymaker Consulting now. So
cool. So now you've rolled into Waymaker Consulting. That's your own entity. And tell us what you and your company does.
Sure. What's interesting too is I started Waymaker Consulting, and the idea was that I'm in the relationship business. So 2 types of mindsets when it comes to starting a business. I could have either gone to, let's say, sales. Sure, I can sell. I don't think I'm great at it, but I'm really good at relationships. So it's either stay in the old job and get better at selling, or work on the relationship stuff, which I already thought I was really good at. So I thought there was a niche in the industry for, someone that can come in and help connect people at a really high level. The average business development professional might take 2 years to get to the same meeting I can do in 5 years.
Yeah. I came to Vegas 14 years ago, and I met you when I was starting to get into multifamily development. And you alluded to it earlier. You took the time to build a relationship with me and my business partner at the time. And, we were having fun and we were connecting. And what you did, and I assume this is what you do with most of your clients, is you built trust and rapport with me. And I always joke with you now, when you ask, do you know so-and-so? I go, no, I know you. Yeah. I don't know anyone else but you. I know also that a recommendation from you means something. So talk about more your approach to relationships and sales.
Sure. Well, listen, I've said this forever, that time plus experience equals trust. And I know this not from business. I know this from real life. Like, you can get a sense of who somebody is by who they keep around them. And so I knew that if I was going to be successful, it can't be, let's give Jim a shot. It has to be, Jim has delivered the goods. He's not coming in here selling. He's just doing what he knows how to do. And so it became it was more about my reputation.
Okay.
If you do business with me, it's going to work out. And I don't have to say that it always has, but it's building that trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it consistently.
So speak to somebody who's maybe brand new, because your reputation you've earned over time, and you said experience plus time. So if you're new, you have neither of those things. Yep. What advice would you give somebody who's brand new into sales or real estate?
Sure. I think the first thing you have to consider it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? They're going to teach you word tracks. They're going to teach you closing techniques or, how to handle certain situations. What they don't teach you is to put yourself in their shoes. What does it look like when you're
Empathy.
buying a building, buying a home? These are big investments. There's going to be a sense of trust that has to be built. And so in the words of Carrie Cartmill, you would say, talk less, say more. And I think there's this need to fake it till you make it. It's too many companies think this is the way to go. It's not. If you're the last one to talk in a room, you're going to know all the information before you have to open your mouth. And there's a lot of value to that, which is very funny because if you know me, I'm very chatty. Like I love the conversation. I like to build rapport. But if I'm new, I think I would need to understand that my leadership knows that I'm new and expects me to be more of a sponge, that they can really get the handle of things. And instead of trying to go in, fake it till you make it, say the things you think they want to hear, or you're trying to plan the outcome of the meeting by directing the conversation. And I just know from decades in the business that it's just not how it's going to work. You can win on the short term, but not the long term.
Yeah. So you have two ears and one mouth. You're asking good questions. You're listening to the answers, retaining the information, the personal information and the business information, family, kids, likes and dislikes, and remembering that. And, this is always a human business. Every business is. And I couldn't agree with you more. Fake it till you make it. Yeah, you need to maybe look the part and hang around the right circles, but listening is critical.
Well, and I'll say this is not good advice for anybody, but it is the truth. When I was in sales and I would find myself in a rut and I was having issues, just having normal conversations with clients or with prospects, I try to find a space in which I could go talk to a stranger. Now, maybe it's the bar. I don't know. I'm not here to say it is or it isn't. I would find myself in a position, whether it's on a golf course or at a bar or someplace where I would meet somebody and I'd just have a conversation. And the outcome of this was, why am I not nervous to have this conversation? If this conversation is all I need to have with the client or the prospect, there is no difference. The only difference is my expectation of what I want the outcome to be. Once you lose the outcome and you're going for more of the system is to have a normal conversation and be human. People relate to it. People put their guards down much quicker. And at the end of the day, even if you go through a great deal, you'll find a part of the deal was exactly that. And it always has been that.
You're touching upon one of my favorite philosophies. It's a Buddhist philosophy about detachment and detachment from the outcome. Specifically, if you focus on the process, if you focus on the people, the outcome will occur. And the outcome you want may not occur, but then there's that trust that it didn't occur for a reason. And also, you've done all you can. You can sleep well at night knowing that I was a good listener and a good person, and I built rapport, and the outcome that happened was meant to be. And you just keep doing that over and over again, and eventually your desired outcomes, I would argue, always your desired outcomes occur, whether you think they did or not.
And that's what's fascinating. When I'm working with a lot of different companies, and I also work with the employees, and we talk a lot about goals. And what's interesting is the goal we start with and where they get to are not always aligned, but they are very much the same thing. So really touching on what you just said is they'll get to an outcome and it doesn't match what they wrote on paper.
Yeah.
And sometimes
but they're really happy about it.
It's really happy about where they came to, and the growth that comes from that is kind of life-changing, or they can't go back to the other way.
So I know you as a goal setter. You have a different approach, I believe, to goal setting. We were chatting offline a few weeks ago about really you do themes for the year, right? Tell us about some previous themes and then 2025's themes.
Yeah. So this was about, I don't know, maybe I'm 43 now. So I was probably 38. But then what I realized is the voice in your head knows exactly what you're not good at. It knows where the flaws are. And we build habits to protect that. We do. And so it was to take something in my life that I said, I say no to everybody. I don't want to go on trips. I do, but I need to leave the family. All the excuses would come to mind. So I said, I'm going to do a year, yes. And so what that meant wasn't I'm going to say yes to everything, but there were parameters around this goal. And that was, do I really have a valid excuse? Can I not afford it or can whatever? And so I went on 8 trips.
In a year?
Yeah.
With various people, business people?
Mexico, I saw Dave Matthews at the Gorge. Booked a trip to Hawaii. I went on a cruise. The point around it was these are things I wanted to do. There was a ski trip that my friend wanted me to go on. He's asked me 6 straight years. I said no every year.
Yeah.
You don't ski.
I don't ski.
So I said yes. I rented some skis. I took out a small troop of newbies.
Cool.
But what I actually got out of it wasn't the ability to say yes. It was the ability to recognize why I say no. And not every time I say no is valid. But if I can assure that the yeses are valid, that there's no other reason why I shouldn't do this. Let's go. I want to do this. And being able to articulate that the friends and family that I feel like before I'd say, well, they're not going. Is it fair for me to do this? My wife not to. Being able to communicate that to them allowed me to move forward to the next year and say, okay, I'm going to say yes more. Not nearly as much as I did that year. But
yeah, I see. So not only do you have that great year of new experiences, you obviously learned to ski, you built connections with friends, you enriched your life, frankly. I mean, you have experienced a part of life skiing that I've never experienced, for example. It's about being open to new experiences, which I think changes how your mind works in general. You know, the brain is now looking for opportunity to grow as opposed to, I think, restrict. And as we get older, every one of us, that's what happens, is settling in. I heard recently a friend told me, remember when you were a kid, how like time seemed to move so slowly, like between like, when's the weekend coming? Oh my God. And now this week flew by because what happens is we're older, we're getting these routines and it actually speeds up time. And the art of experiencing new things helps slow down time because when you're a kid, everything is new. So there's been some studies that tie that ability to be open to new experiences actually slows down time, obviously not realistically, but mentally.
Sure.
And so it's a great thing you're doing that. And then one other thing I heard you say is this year theme, is that 2024?
I have one.
Yes, man.
Oh no, that was like 2019.
So now, I mean, in 2025, is that still a part of your life?
It is. So a couple of years later, I did a year of strength. I ended up finding an accountability partner. Because I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to start the gym thing. And what came from the year of strength was amazing. It wasn't just going to the gym. I still go to the gym. I'm not as fit as I was when I worked out with someone who really knows what they're doing. But what came from it actually was my son going. He's 14, going to the gym all the time. Like we built this incredible bond at the gym, which wasn't what I was looking for a result, but because we did it, because I did that year, well, we're years later, I'm still going. It's a habit. Now it's his habit. And he found relief there.
Just like you were saying with your clients, you set a goal to get stronger. And what you ended up doing was building a great relationship, deeper relationship with your son, and formed a healthy habit that changed his life, perhaps.
You can't make this stuff up. And so last year, we've had some bad news in my family. And I decided I was going to do a year of service. I did a year of mental health. And this was everything from neurofeedback, ice therapy, what else we do? We did
breathing techniques,
Wim Hof, breath of fire, DMT, all of it. I was really involved with that for the year. So I saw a psychiatrist for the first time and some stigma around that. This last year has been incredible. It's been a really incredible year, which led to this year, which is a year of sobriety. And it's not about alcohol. It wasn't a year of sobriety from drinking. People say sobriety and they think drinking or some other drug. It's about anything in my life that's not serving me, that's habitual. So social media. And listen, I love social media. I think there's a place for it, but doom scrolling is a real thing.
It's a drug.
It is. And it's built, from what I understand, it's built that way. And so I was noticing towards the end of last year that my wife and I tend to spend our nights watching a movie, watching a reel, right? It's like this situation. And I thought this year's a good year to try to dump as many things in my life that don't serve me. So it doesn't mean I'm not going to drink. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be on social media. But what it does mean is I'm going to put regulations around all of it. How much am I doing of any of it? Because I just want to see at the end of the year what comes from it. When I'm more mindful, when I have to implement new habits to take over bad habits, what am I doing from 8 to 9:30 or 8 to 9 if I was just scrolling on the couch? Well, now I'm painting. I'm not very good at it, but I'm finding real enjoyment not being in front of a TV and being, we'll say artistic in a way that's kind of like finger painting, if I'm being honest, but
it doesn't matter. Again, you're opening up these pathways in your brain to learning and to experiencing new things that is so healthy and will give you benefits forever and ever by
getting out of the habits. And not to use a ski analogy, but I've been taught that it's like going down a ski slope and you put the grooves in the snow, and when something happens, it's 8 o'clock at night, like you said, make a drink or watch a movie. It's a ski slope that you just go down that worn path. And to be able to stay at the top of the mountain and say, you know what, I'm gonna take a different path today, is such a sign of your mental strength and your mindfulness.
Sure.
To be able to do these things. It's an incredible feat that you're doing it. And I commend you, because most people cannot do a fraction of what you're saying to do. It's very inspiring for everyone listening and watching. How though, because everyone's going to face this. We're filming now in January. There's a lot of New Year's resolutions. This isn't a New Year's resolution show, but a goal setting. When life throws unexpected challenges at you, which you alluded to earlier is happening in your life, how do you maintain your goals, or how do you pivot?
Sure. Well, first, unexpected things, tragedy or some other event, just challenges, I guess, in life, whether it's with your job or through your family, are going to happen. Acknowledging that on the front end, that's just what's going to happen. I don't have a year in my life where it hasn't. And staying on track and being honest with yourself to say, it's not about getting off track. It's about putting in processes to get back on track. This is why the New Year's resolution was so important, was because I couldn't make it more than 30 days doing anything. So if I failed on day 20, it was done. In fact, I would think family members are like, oh, you didn't make it. Well, now it's a year. I expect to fail in the year. That's going to happen. But it's that mindset of, I'm trying to change something bigger than just losing weight. I'm trying to change something different than going on vacations. It's the goal. You can set a goal without setting a goal. I can set a goal knowing overarching, I want to get stronger. How much stronger? I may not put that in there, but I know that it's going to be important to my life. I know that I need to be stronger because I like to play sports. I like to play golf and softball, and everything was hurting and I'm waking up in pain. I knew it was something in my life that I'd been putting off, but I was realistic, understanding I'm going to have weeks that I don't go. But did I put the things in place to get me back on track when they fall off? And that has kind of been the life lesson of doing these yearly goals and tackling one thing at a time. Is the expectation now is it's going to fail. Like this thing I'm doing, I will find 3 weeks. I'm probably back into an old rut. But the good news is I didn't win or lose there to get back on that horse, because I'm really looking forward to the last week of the year where I go, how'd I go? What did I learn? Like, what am I taking with me? What didn't really make a difference? Ice therapy didn't make any difference to me. Sitting in a cold pool. I didn't feel energetic afterwards. Cold showers annoyed me, right? That probably doesn't move forward. Neurofeedback, definitely going to move forward with. Probably going to do that forever. Makes a huge difference. So it's that idea of, well, what do you do if you fail? The expectation was to fail.
It's extremely intelligent to have that expectation, because I think most people do fail in the long-term sense of the word, as in stop trying and give up, when that first failure happens. When they don't go to the gym that week, for example, they're like, okay, well, I failed. Time to move on back to you say that's going to happen. That week is going to happen maybe multiple times this year, and I'm ready for it. It doesn't mean I failed. It just means it happened, and move forward as part of the process. So like thinking in a year timeline, as you do, a theme, and thinking where are the weak spots and anticipating them is what keeps you going, because you're not failing. You're just going over that road bump that you expected to see.
Well, and what you're building is grace. You're building grace for yourself. Like, I tell this to almost every client, anyone I'm working with, the person that does not support you is the guy in the mirror or the gal in the mirror. They're not nice. They see flaws. He's seeing me when I'm aging. He's never been kind to me. I know a lot of people that I have this conversation with, they would agree. We're hardest on ourselves. And so to have a year of really, it's kind of grace where it's like, you're going to fail, you're going to fail, and it's okay. And you're just going to pick back up. And this really does, by the way, translate to business. You want to close every deal. You want to you want to do the right things and not let people down. But when you start knowing that you can't control everything and you're going to let people down, this is your mindset, that that's just part of how business is going to operate. I better be very good at adjusting to failure.
Yeah.
Or coping with it.
I think the failure isn't letting people down. It's perhaps just not performing to your best. And I mean that in that time.
Sure.
Because when tragedy happens, not if, this year, and hopefully that's on a small scale for all of us, but when there's a setback and you have to work and business is calling and you give it your best in that moment, that's a win. Maybe it's not your best, your peak Jim, but hey, this is all I got right now, and I gave it all I got. Maybe I fell short, but I know I gave it all I got, and that's a win.
Well, and it's funny. This is like a insanity video, 2006 or something with Sean T. And it's like, do your best, forget the rest. And what's interesting is, and this, I'll give the credit to my son, when he doesn't want to wake up and go to the gym, he does 50 push-ups. I don't know why he does 50 push-ups, but he says, that's my bar. I'm going to do 50. I've done something. And how many times in business do you show up and it's just not your day, and you know it's not your day, and you pack it in instead of saying, I have a bar. It's a low bar today. It's not my best, but
50 phone calls maybe.
But I'm gonna put something forward.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start stacking successes, even if they're really small. So,
and it's funny with that analogy. I bet your son does 50 push-ups, and now he's feeling good, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go to the gym.
Well, I always say the hardest part about going to the gym is the first 15 minutes in which you wake up. But
yeah, getting dressed.
Once you're there, you're good.
You mentioned neurofeedback. I'm unfamiliar with that. Can you tell me more about it?
So, I had bad news. This is back in 21 about my father, and I was really struggling with some of that stuff. And one of my close friends' mother had worked with the Golden Knights, and there's this therapy called neurofeedback. Helps with anxiety, stress, grief, all that. And Dr. Leone, Dr. Leone, great friend of mine now. And really what they're doing is they're measuring delta, beta, high or low beta, brain waves. And it's a therapy where you're watching TV and the picture kind of goes in and out. And it's raining. It's like it's like an overlay, but you're just watching a movie. That's your only job. And it starts training your brain how to lower, for me, it's theta. So how to lower my theta. So when I first started, he does a brain mapping. He said, oh, you have high anxiety. This is what high anxiety looks like with everybody.
Okay.
And so he worked.
It's measurable.
It's very measurable. And so we worked through that. Took about 10 sessions.
So you're in the office, you have things measuring brainwaves, and you're watching screens.
Just a movie.
He's getting the data, and that's the therapy. There's no work after that.
We get done. He'll say you had 900 changes today, and you feel like you just took the SATs. You feel exhausted for about 40 minutes afterwards. And he says it's like doing a 5-hour test.
Wow.
Like the same type of brain activity. The first 4 weeks were tough. He says it always gets worse before it gets better, and it did.
Okay. And how often were you going?
I went 10 straight weeks.
Okay. Once a week.
And then after 6 months, I went back once a month. And it was great. Not only has it been like, not a miracle cure, but it's been very helpful during this kind of the process of the year of mental health. But then my wife did it, and she struggled with anxiety. Now she's doing great. And then I had other people in our industry that I told them my journey, and they were able to go and they had success. Now I'm like, was it just in my head? No, it's not in my head.
Any side effects?
No. Well, feeling better is the main side effect.
Dr. Leone. So we'll
Dr. Leone.
We'll link to his website in the show notes.
That'd be great.
Let people research it on their own.
Yeah.
I'm glad that worked for you.
Yeah. Appreciate
it. So cool.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask you, you've talked a lot about themes and goals.
Yep.
And I mean, how do you choose these goals, and how do you set goals?
I will say this, that I do believe when it comes to setting goals, people kind of get this wrong. For instance, I set a goal in 2018 that I was going to run a marathon. And so, do you know how to train for a marathon?
I've trained for a half marathon.
Okay, train for a half marathon. Well, a lot of people think you start running. This makes a ton of sense. And so what I did is I started running. First, I ran 2 miles every other day, whatever it was. Then it was 3, then it was 5, and then it was 6, and I hurt my knee. And I was out for 4 months. I'm like, well, this is terrible. And well, about a year later, I said, I'm going to train for the rock and roll. But this time I got help. And how he explained to train for a marathon was so different. He said, what I want you to do is take the next 2 weeks, and I want you to run a 15-minute mile, no quicker. It's walking.
Yeah.
And I want you to concentrate on breathing. And I want you to do that 4 days a week, no more than 2 miles, 15-minute miles. So I did that. And then he's like, okay, move it to 13-minute miles. Concentrate on your breathing the next week. So, okay, I did that. And then it was, you can run at whatever pace you want, but only for 3 minutes, and you're going to walk a minute. And I did that. What I wasn't catching is I was building habits of running. I wasn't getting any cardio, but I had developed a schedule. And so he made it very simple And in 16 weeks, I ran the marathon, no problems, no injuries. But it wasn't about the marathon. It was about the habits. He took a complex race. It's hard to run 26.2 miles. And he made it where I almost fooled myself into training right. It was kind of funny at the end, because that was the takeaway, that it's hard to run 26.2 miles, but it's easy to run 15-minute miles, concentrate on breathing. Because my whole mind was just, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but you'd find that rhythm. It was incredible. So I took this same concept and I'm like, we can apply this to business. But the problem is we set the goal. You want to work out? Great. You want to work out? Let's backtrack. Why are you going to fail? I don't know. I get 20 days in. Well, how are you in the morning? I'm groggy. What time do you go to bed? Right? It's this thought of, are you drinking water? Okay, that's your new goal. I want you to drink 16 ounces of water before bed and go to bed in bed by 9. Well, what does that do? You wake up more rested the next day, right? It's this mindset of, we're going to take the goal and we're going to turn it into a system. We're going to turn it into, what are your systems that are causing you not to get to your goal? I can take almost anybody and make them more successful by just looking at their goals and their systems. They take this, I want to make more money. Great, you want to make more money. Well, what are the systems people that make that type of money do? Surprisingly, a lot of those things don't even come from your job. The person that wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes to the gym every morning, drinks water and meditates, probably has their leg up on you. Well, that has nothing to do with your career. Okay.
It has everything to do with your career.
Of course. So how hard is anything I just said? Sitting quietly for 10 minutes, going to bed at 9 o'clock, drinking water, getting up more refreshed. Like, there's no downside. And yet, if that was the difference between you making $500,000 this year or not, why would you not do it? And yet I talk to person after person and their systems don't align with their goals. And so we have to start at the goal. Why is this your goal? Your systems would support something very different. And so when I'm working with companies, I'll go into a company, into a low performer, and we'll walk through what they're trying to accomplish. And what I've actually found more than not when it comes to employees is the owner understands the goal. The owner understands the KPI, but they give them no idea on what the systems are to achieve it, right? I need you to sell 200 homes this year. Great. Just show up to work and start working. That seems like a good game plan. You got to make a lot of calls. I think that probably works. That's burnout. And so the more I've done my job and worked with different companies, the company started off as a relationship building company and is really turned into like this. It's not systems. That I do systems when it comes to internal, external systems, growth strategies, all that stuff. But it's really turned into people systems. And how do we get people optimized to run at a high performance? And what we found 100% of the time is when we improve their systems, their job gets easier and they become a great performer. And yet this is no KPI. They're just assuming that if we'll say you're an estimator, that you know how to estimate instead of saying, what are your systems to estimate? I was talking to a senior estimator today and they were working on 6 projects. I said, that's going to be a problem. If you're working on 6 projects, you can give D+ effort to all 6. You got to look at your systems and your resources. They're not working because you're overwhelmed and you're worried about coming in probably tomorrow because today is going to be tough and tomorrow is going to be tough, right? So I think working with business owners and understanding what their employee systems look like and getting them really good and simplifying them to something that feels easy, what they see is those people just start winning. They start getting their job right. And so through consistency comes coherence.
Let's talk more about that to all applications. So an estimator with 6 estimates, perhaps a real estate agent with 6 clients this week, overwhelm and burnout is a thing. How do you suggest people prioritize that and avoid having multiple tough days stacked up?
Well, I think 2 things. One is when you have 6 clients and you probably don't have enough time, then it's just about prioritizing those clients. And that may not be fair. It probably won't be fair because they're all going to be important to you, but you do have to prioritize them. And then the second thing is, why do we get in this situation to begin with? Sometimes that's a good thing. You got 6 clients and that's a good feeling. Sure. Now you have to work with all 6 and kind of figure out the strategy on how that's going to work. More than not, you'll see somebody trying to take on 6 clients and not ask for help, not ask for resources, or a boss that doesn't know they're overwhelmed. Again, we talked about earlier, they build great habits in order to hide the things that they're not good at or hide those blind spots, right? They don't want to admit that they can't handle this, so they don't ask for help. And the only person that suffers is them, right? So I believe that if they would just take a second to say, if the times I'm feeling overwhelmed, this is your body's check engine light, and you need to add resources to your life. You need to decompartmentalize what's happening, get somebody else involved. I'm certain you have folks that work for you that you'd be happy if they came to you and said, hey, I'm struggling. They come to you enough times and say they're struggling. You can now work on their systems.
Yep.
Something has gone wrong because they're now putting on things on their workload that they can't handle.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help them.
You're reminding me of a quote you may hear on this podcast more than once. It's an Abe Lincoln. He's credited for saying, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend 4 hours sharpening my axe. And I think a lot of what you're saying is that philosophy where let's look at the night before. Okay, so yeah, I got 6 clients or something. I got to do 6 estimates. The night before, get prepared. And that means going to bed and drinking water, but also prioritizing your day and your calendar, perhaps. Calendar blocking, prioritizing who's important, reaching out and openly communicating to superiors, to assistants, to your clients. This is where we are, and this is what needs to be done. For example, does this client, one of them is really just exploring neighborhoods right now to develop a site or to buy a house. So how about maybe that client suggest a few neighborhoods they go and explore on their own today? Because I need this client here who needs to write an offer. They need to be moved in 30 days. Just an example in real estate, prioritizing and delegating and controlling the situation as best as you can. And then if not, reaching out for help.
Sure.
I agree with that. And I think preparation and the night before is critical. Back to goal setting and the way your marathon trainer taught you is really applicable in so many ways about learning how to do something before you do it. And you don't want to overthink it. I think the other intelligent thing that coach did was gave you just small bites. I heard you say 15-minute mile was so easy. I mean, your confidence level must have been up. You're like, this is all I have to do to run a marathon?
Walking, baby.
Look at me.
Yeah.
I got this. Versus, this 5-minute mile hurt my knee, or this 5 miles hurt my knee. If someone wanted to start today building better systems or implementing new habits, what's the first step they should take?
Sure. I will say, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but go buy yourself a dry erase marker.
Okay.
This was the game changer for me. I bought a dry erase marker and I started writing down all the reasons why I wasn't getting to my goals on the bathroom mirror. I'm stuck looking at it. And what's interesting is it started being, well, why am I not reaching my goals? Why am I not getting up in the morning? Sometimes it was lazy. Sometimes I actually had really good excuses that, but I wrote them down. I didn't care. And then it was like, well, this word keeps popping up. And then I would ask that question, well, why is that happening? Because I am tired in the morning. What time I go to bed? It was like that process. And you can do this for any goal. The first step is to get rid of the excuses. And listen, I know some are valid. They're not though, right? Either we're going to get there or we're not. We're going to put good systems in or we're not. And we are built to make up excuses, to soothe ourselves, to make ourselves feel better. I still have really good excuses. I still write it on the bathroom mirror. I don't think that's ever going to stop. But what it reminds me is when I'm saying no to something, if it's an excuse, it gets to go on the bathroom mirror. My wife thinks this is very funny because I have no shame in it. But it's a good place because in order to build good systems, you have to be honest with yourself. You just do of what you're not doing and why you're not doing it. Because no matter what the goal is, unless you're honest with you or you're not working hard enough, you don't have to tell your boss that, but you have to be honest with yourself in order for you to start coming to terms with what has to change in my life to get better. What do I need help with and what resources do I have to put in my life in order to get to the next level to level up? And so it's something as simple as that. I promise you do it for 6 months. You'll never stop doing it. I don't know if there'll ever be a time that I'll ever stop doing it because it's such a good reminder that I am the world's best excuse maker to myself, to my family at times. And when I write it down, it reminds me that I am better than that I am working on that.
You're flipping the whole thing you said earlier on its head about we're our own worst critics. Yeah. You're like, okay, since I'm my own worst critic, I'm going to visualize the critique. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to write down my BS and critique myself. And instead of it just being a theme in my head that's private, you're not only visualizing it for yourself, but now your wife's in the bathroom who thinks it's funny, but is also your accountability partner,
Big time.
sees it, knows what, and that just speaks volumes for your relationship, by the way. Kudos to you guys that you are that open about your innermost feelings. Like you're sharing this openly with your wife. Kudos to you guys. I love that idea. I don't know if my wife would allow that. We're a very neat household here. The dry erase marker, maybe I'll put on a piece of
Well,
paper.
one of the times I wrote, "My wife is mean to me." It was more of a joke. But I will say, if you're watching this and you're like, "Oh, I don't know if I'll be able to do that," it is actually quite tough. And it's not that it's tough. It's not hard to find excuses.
Well, there's the first excuse. Why was I not able to do it? Write that on the mirror.
Perfect. And write what it is, and it's fine. It will be fine. The board,
it comes off.
Yeah, it comes off in the first like 3 weeks. I'm like, I can't even see myself. Like, is this who I am? Who is why?
It is who you are.
Yeah, right. And so it'll make a difference in your life, and it's a good first step.
Especially the recurring excuses. That's who you are. Like that's the one to pay attention to, right?
Yep.
Like that recurring excuse is what's holding you back, and we don't realize we probably say it in our head all the time, but it doesn't become real until it's in writing. I feel. And if you're like, wow, I wrote it again. There it is again. I have to do something about this. I think it's inspiring. I'm a little afraid to do it.
You should try it.
All right.
If you want to level up,
I will.
That's what we do.
Level up. It's a good theme. So, I mean, obviously every single year you have a theme, and all these themes are you leveling up in some way. I've noticed you diversify your themes. Some are experience related, some are physical related, some are mental related. That's incredible because you're challenging yourself in multiple ways, multiple facets of life. And you're stacking a really great life for yourself. Man, I don't really know what else to say. I'm impressed, and I feel like I have homework thus far.
Well,
You get to move into
Quickfire me, baby.
Let's go. All right, the next round, Quickfire Wisdom. So, same 5 questions we ask all our guests. Try to keep it brief. Number 1, what's the one habit you've developed that's made the biggest difference in your day-to-day life?
Bedtime. What time I go to bed? 100%. I mean, if I'm not in bed by 8:45, something's gone tragic. Doesn't mean I'm asleep then. It means I will get 7.5 to 8 hours sleep. Gonna happen.
Love it. Do you have a favorite quote or mantra that you live by?
Let's see. Don't believe everything you feel.
Don't believe everything you feel. I'm going to let that sink in. Haven't heard that before. Don't believe everything you see.
Everything you think. But to me, it's my feelings will take control of my next step. And sometimes that's not going to be my best step or my best action or my best words or my best thoughts. But it does if we think about the number of times our feelings dictate what we do next. And rarely does it come from a place of logic, and rarely does it help.
Byron Katie is a author I follow, and she has a great philosophy. We'll link to her book in the show notes, but she has a thing where you ask yourself, is it true? So like, I'm feeling angry. Is it true? Yes. Are you absolutely certain it's true? And just asking that twice, questioning yourself, really makes you realize maybe this feeling is fleeting and it's not real. It's not true, which all feelings are.
Yep.
And it's how we respond. It's that gap between stimulus and response. Anger it's a mother, like you want to respond, and you're very aware of that. So say it again one more time.
Yeah. Don't believe everything you feel.
Cool. Which book has played a significant role in contributing to your personal growth?
This path starts with Why by Simon Sinek. It was the quest for, I would say I had no hobbies. This is the real thing I would say. About 8 years ago, I have no hobbies. All I do is work. I want a hobby. I have nothing I'm passionate towards. I read that book. I didn't have that problem anymore.
I've never heard of that book. You're the first guest to stump me.
That one, and then he came out with the Infinite Game, which is also equally incredible. Simon Sinek is he's a mastermind.
I'll read at least one of those this year.
Great.
So I have 2 tasks thanks to you.
Accountability partner.
Okay.
I'm here.
What's your favorite app or tool for productivity?
You're not going to like this one. And I consider myself somebody I love AI. I love ChatGPT. I think Gemini is going to come out and be fantastic. Gosh, I just like a notebook. I'm going to be honest. It's not efficient. I don't suggest anyone go out and get a notebook or be that list person. There are far better ways to do it. But, you say it, think it, write it. something about that to me that has always stood true. I don't want to type it in an Excel spreadsheet or some CRM. There's a time and a place for that. But
yeah, I mean, it's been proven writing things down.
Low Tech Jim. That's my new nickname.
It increases memory. Yeah, I'm writing it down to remember it now is what they say. Don't write it down to remember it later. Write it down to remember it now, because it's just ingrains in your brain. I love it. So a journal. And last question, what's your go-to way to unwind after a long day?
Oh boy. So lately it's been painting. Used to be other habits. Definitely used to be watching TV and scrolling. I'm going to say painting because it's been a little side fact too. When I choose these things, I don't wait till January 1 to start. So that's kind of something else I do. I try to do the last 3 weeks heading into it to build momentum. Painting is something that I kind of started in October, but it has been my new, what do I do at 7:30? You're going to find me in the garage, painting something, listening to Zach Bryan or somebody just as my downtime, or, spending time with the kids if I can. So
awesome. That's a great way to end your day.
Right on.
And a great way to end the podcast. Jim Slack.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, right on.
Let's take a moment to reflect. Wherever you are, allow yourself to pause and be fully present in this moment. Think about a goal or resolution you're currently working through. Instead of focusing on how far you have to go, shift your attention to the steps you've already taken. What progress, however small, have you already made? Now, consider this. Growth isn't about perfection or achieving a flawless outcome. It's about showing up consistently, learning from each step, and allowing yourself grace when things don't go as planned. Failure is a part of growth. Ask yourself, what's one small step, one intentional step I can take today that aligns with my goals? Not tomorrow, not next week, just today. Take a moment to recognize that you are already capable. You are already equipped with resilience and creativity to move forward, even if the path isn't entirely clear. And as you carry this thought with you, remind yourself it's okay to adjust, to pivot, and trust the process. Growth isn't linear. It's an unfolding, and every step matters. Thanks for joining me on this journey today. I'm Michael Coxen, and this is The Mindful Agent. Join me next time as we continue to explore the intersection of real estate, health, and mindfulness.